It's April of 2021. I'm a few months into grade 8 and I've been going out just about every single weekend, going pretty hard with my boys. Now, for those of you who don't know, in December of 2020, I had started to experiment with MDMA, and by this point I'd begun to enjoy it a little bit too much. So, one Friday night, my mate Griggsy, who was a couple years older than me, invites me around to his house to stay for the night with my best mate Crocker. Now this particular weekend, Griggsy's mum was going to be out of town, so he wanted us to come around to his house and piss up with him. The year before, he'd actually won a court case because he'd had his finger chopped off by a lawnmower, so he won like $40,000, which meant he never gave a fuck about shouting us boys. Like literally anything you wanted, all you had to do was ask and he would buy it for you. He was that type of mate. So Crocker and I pull up to Griggsy's house later this afternoon, and the plan for this night wasn't actually anything crazy initially. We're gonna get a couple of 24 packs of beverages and share them amongst the three of us, which by itself was a recipe for disaster, but it's not even fucking close to what ended up happening this night, but I won't get too ahead of myself. We sit around chatting shit for around 20-30 minutes, but around 5:30 p.m, we decide we should go up to the servo nearby and get some dinner. So we walk up to the servo, Crocker and I get, a couple pies, couple sausage rolls. Of course, Griggsy shouts. We go back to Griggsy's, we eat our pies and sausage rolls, and we start hooking into the bevies, right? Now, as I'm sitting there, just kicking back on Griggsy's bed, having a couple of bevies, listening to some music, talking shit with the boys, I get out my phone and I start tapping through Snapchat stories. I come across a story from this girl who had actually bought bickies off in the past, all right? Which gets me excited as fuck. Reason being, I had this girl's stuff in the past, and to say it was potent would be an understatement. So as soon as I see this, I say to Crocker, oh, this girl's got bickies, you want to get some? And I'm asking Griggsy if he wants to get some. Never done them with us before, so I'm getting all excited. I'm asking if they want to do them. Now, Crocker says yes, but Griggsy says no. However, he will pay for them, of course. All right, cool. So now we got a little plan put into place. It's not what we'd initially planned, but we're thinking, right, now the night's gonna be 10 times more hectic. So I message this girl and I organise for her to swing by at 6:30 p.m. so we can, get it off her. And we sit around waiting for a bit. I have a few more bevies and, around 6:30 she pulls up. I'll go out the front. I think I gave her like $70 or something for 4. And I'll walk back inside. Now, upon getting back inside, Crocker and I weren't the type to wait. We'd done it enough times in the past to know how we would be on them, and we just knew that nothing bad could really come from it. At least, that's what we thought. Crocker and I proceed to get another bevy out of the carton to have our bickies with, and if I had to pinpoint an exact moment where everything just turned to shit, it would be this moment right here, this very decision. So after we eat them, Crocker and I go and sit on the floor in the corner of Griggsy's room whilst Griggsy's just up on the bed. We're sitting around spinning yarns, listening to some music. But around 15 minutes later, these things hit me like a fucking truck. Because what I hadn't taken into consideration was the fact that I had had probably 6 or 7 beveraginos by this point, which meant the effects were going to come on a whole lot quicker than they had in the past when I had just done it by itself. Same goes for Crocker, who is a crucial part in this story, I might add. So now I'm at the stage where I'm starting to feel the music. I'm really social and I want to talk to the boys. I just want to fucking talk their ear off. And it's at this moment in time that I decide to tell Griggsy, we should do something. I'm starting to make plans for later. We should go for a walk, bro. We should go for a run. Oh, is the servo still open? Are there any parties on tonight? I'm just in this really G'd up, energetic, euphoric state, right? And we end up deciding that we're all gonna go for a walk, right? We're gonna go up to the park up from Griggsy's and we'll just see where the night takes us. Bad fucking idea. What's cracking, my boy? If you're enjoying this story, do me a favor and hit the sub button, smash like, helps me out a fuck ton. I'll let you get back to the video, Sonny Jim. Now, of course, I said Crocker was a crucial part of this story, so I must add that Crockers have also hit him like a fucking truck by this point. A few minutes later, we put our shoes on, put a couple bevies in my pocket, and we decide to head up to the park near Griggsy's. Now, as we're walking, of course, my mood's becoming more and more elevated with every step I take. But we finally get up to the park and we sit down on the park bench. At which point I look at Crocker, who is, by the way, a lot smaller than me at this point in time. I think he would have been maybe 52 kilos and I think I was maybe 65. So there's a fair bit of weight difference. And yeah, I look at Crocker and I say to him, bruh, how are you feeling? Like, are you all right? Although I think the way he looked pretty much did all the talking and gave me the answer I was looking for. And he says to me, oh, I don't think they've ever been this strong before, eh? Now, this could have been the case, but like I said, he was a significantly smaller kid and he had never paired it with that before, so that definitely played a part. So after we sink our bevies at the park, we decided it's getting a little bit chilly. We're gonna head back to Griggsy's for a bit until we work out what we're gonna do for the rest of the night. Right, so we walk back and I'm thinking this is gonna be a super mundane night. You know, when there's no parties on, there's nothing too crazy to do. Now, upon getting back to Griggsy's house, I sit in the corner where I was earlier and I start fucking around with like his internet router cable. I just can't seem to sit still. By this point, I'm peaking on a completely another level. And I end up breaking his Wi-Fi router cord. Now, upon doing this, I move up to his bed, right, so that I don't get the blame. If anyone's to blame, it's Crocker. Pretty dog, but that's what happened. And I start saying, you know, we should go and do something. This is just going to be boring sitting around for the rest of the night listening to music in Griggsy's room. And this is when Crocker starts to really become persistent. He's looking at Griggsy and he's like, yeah, we should go. We shouldn't sit around. Why are we fucking around sitting here? Are there any parties on tonight? He's just buzzing. Every couple of minutes, he's just asking, boys, can we go for a walk? Is it time to go for a walk? Or do you just want to do something? Are there any parties on? He's just asking question after question. So finally, we decide we're gonna walk around 3 kilometers to like the big oval that's up the road from Griggsy's house, right? Once again, we put our shoes on and we start walking. Now, this is the very moment that everything just becomes on another level of fucked, right? This is where our night completely turns to shit. We get up to the oval near Griggsy's house. It doesn't take us very long at all, given the circumstances. And upon reaching sort of like the fence bit, we come across this building site where there's like a bunch of construction signs. And Crocker, for whatever reason, decides it's a good idea to pick one up. Now, this sign wasn't like a small little fucking sign. It was like one of those whole ass road signs, about that big. And he's holding it up and he's like, bro, I'm gonna take this home and hang it on my wall. And I say to him, no, you're not. Stop being stupid, like put it down. But just looking at him, this was when I realized he was not going to remember a thing the next day. So I'm telling him to put it down, stop being a fuckwit. There's no way he's going to be able to get that home without his mum noticing that he's, you know, taking it. So we continue walking across the footy field. And that's when I sort of noticed Crocker's got an interesting pattern in the way that he's walking. So I say to him, like, Crocker, come here for a second. I want to just get a photo of you. I'll get my phone out and I start recording him on Snapchat with like the flash on, right? So it's flashing his eyes like this, like I'm doing to you now. And just as I turn the flash on, his eyes start jittering in a way that I cannot even demonstrate, right? It's just like rapidly from side to side. So it's at this point I walk over to Griggsy and I tell him, bro, it's probably a good idea to head back to your house. You know, Crocky's just way too to be walking around this late at night. So we start heading back to Griggsy's and I'm having a chat with him sort of off to the side where Crocker is, because Crocker's just like running up and down the street. And he says to me, bro, this is just way too, like, my brother's at home, right? Griggsy's brother was at home and he was scared that Crocker was going to wake him up because of how loud he was being and how much energy was in him. So he calls out to Crocker and he says, oi, Crocker bros, go for a run, let out some energy, right? Big mistake. Crocker says, oh, how far do you want me to go? Right? It's just taking it as like a fucking challenge or something. And Griggsy tells him, oh, just run up to the house, right? Now, for whatever reason, I don't know what was going through Crocker's head, but he took that as do multiple laps of the block and just get fucking lost, right? So as Griggsy and I are walking, we're watching Crocker and he runs up ahead. As soon as he goes around the corner, we're thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna meet him back at Griggsy's house. We walk around the corner probably 30 seconds later, looking around, where the fuck's Crocker gone? He did leg it, but you know, he should be at your house. Nowhere to be seen. So we head to the block over where Griggsy's house is. He's not there. You know, we expect him to be sitting on the steps out the front. Nowhere to be seen. So that's when I get my phone out and we start spam calling him, right? This 14 years old, he's not a very big kid, he's out on the loose. He probably doesn't even know what's going on by this point. So we're spam calling him, just calling him over and over and over again. And he's not answering, right? We have no fucking idea where this has disappeared to. This is when we sort of start to get worried, right? We do a couple of laps of the block and we still can't seem to find him anywhere. We're finally on, I believe, our 3rd lap of the block. We find Crocker just sitting in the middle of this like little park near Griggsy's house, which wasn't even somewhere we had been close to that night. So what had pretty much happened was Crocker knew he was supposed to run to Griggsy's house, but somehow he got lost, like he forgot the street that it was on, because he'd only been there like 2 times before. And so he just started doing laps of the block like we did, but obviously he was running and we were walking, so we were sort of behind him the entire time. So once we find him, we make the decision to go back to Griggsy's, but this was nothing compared to what was to come. Get back to Griggsy's and we all immediately start hooking into the bevies again, which obviously wasn't a good idea for any of us, but especially Crocker given, you know, his state. But no more than 20 minutes after being back at Griggsy's house, Crocker starts saying to us, "Oh boys, we should go for a walk, you know, we should go do something." And I say to him, "We just did do something. You got lost and we spent the last 20 minutes looking for you, for fuck's sake. Let me just turn the flash on." And he goes, oh, no, it won't happen again. And Griggsy's just telling him like, "Sit down, kick back, turn on Fortnite or something," right? He's telling him to turn on the PlayStation. And Crocker just starts picking shit up. He's throwing cushions around. He's fidgeting, right? He just can't sit still. Anything in Griggsy's room, he'd just pick up and like have a little fucking geeze at. And this was only the beginning of Crocker's antics. Now, to make a long story short, we kick back in Griggsy's room till around 1 AM and we finally decide we're gonna go to bed. However, Crocker was still fucking wide awake, which was very unfortunate news for Griggsy because he actually wanted to go to sleep. I was just gonna sit there and scroll for a couple of hours, but he was tired as fuck, you know, because he hadn't done the things that we had done. So Griggsy heads off to the spare room. I'm sleeping in his room in his bed and Crocker's supposed to be sleeping on the lounge in the lounge room. I'm laying in bed scrolling TikTok for the next few minutes when suddenly I hear this big fucking bang. I get out of bed and I walk over to the door which sort of separates Griggsy's room and the lounge room. I poke my head through the door and I say to Crocker, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he says to me, "Oh, I tripped over." Right, he'd somehow tripped over because he was going to plug his phone into the charger, which he didn't even have. He was looking for a charger which didn't exist. And I say to him, "Bro, like, shut the fuck up. Griggsy's brother's asleep, so's Griggsy." So I head back into the room. And I get a message from Griggsy saying, "Bro, get Crocker to shut the fuck up. He's gonna wake my brother up." So we get past that, and around 30 minutes later, I decide I'm gonna nod off. You know, I'm tired, I wanna go to sleep. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly how long I'd been asleep for, but I wake up shortly after to a noise in the room, right? I get my phone, because I can see something moving in the dark. I turn the flash on, and I see Crocker walking away from the corner of my bed, and I say, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm just getting the charger." I look at the bedside table where my charger just was with my phone plugged into it. I realize I have my phone in my hand without a charger plugged in. And I say to him, "That's my charger." And he starts going back and forth with me, telling me about how it's his, that he owns it. And I'm like, "Bruz, you just stole it out of my fucking phone." And he goes, "It's mine." We go back and forth for a couple of minutes and I tell him, you know, "You're not even gonna remember this tomorrow." He finally fucks off. I think he ended up winning the argument. He took my charger. I ended up getting it back in the morning, which I'm getting to. I go to sleep that night, and I would say we wake up at around 7 AM the next morning, and the fucking sight that I was met with is not one I will ever forget. I get out of bed in Griggsy's room and I'm seeing shit scattered all across the floor, pillows everywhere. It seems as though Crocker had made a real fucking mess coming in to get the charger. Sure enough, poke my head out the door, you know, go from Griggsy's room into the lounge room. Crocker's got pillows everywhere, there's blankets all over the floor. I wake him up and I say, "What the fuck did you do last night?" Now, of course, his memory wasn't very vivid, but we ended up checking his Snapchat, which says his location was on like 3 hours before, which meant he stayed up till like 4 AM or some shit. And he can't remember anything that he did, but pretty much the house was just a fucking mess. We had to spend like the next 20 minutes cleaning up. It wasn't super trash, but Crocker had made a fucking dandy old mess for just a one-person job. And bro, yes, this is a funny story. I find it funny, right? It gets me G'd up talking about this stuff. But I cannot look back on a single night where I did this, especially with Crocker, where some fucking stupid shit didn't come from it, right? It always ended bad. There was always a story to tell. I guess you could say it made us so confident in doing stupid shit. And 9 out of 10 times you wouldn't even remember what you did the next day unless there was like a video of it, right? And I hope that in telling this story, I can persuade at least one of you watching to just completely stay away from it all, okay? Of course, I've dulled down details of this story to make it more PG and appropriate for YouTube, But for fuck's sake, just don't be stupid. Use that brain of yours to do positive things and to make an impact on the world. You are called to do something with your life. Just remember that the ones who will be remembered are the ones who have made an impact on the world. Don't be selfish. Don't give in to your selfish desires. Don't do the things that just make you feel good, and do what is good. Because when you do what is good, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping those around you. You're leading instead of following. People who do drugs, drink alcohol, they're sheep, all right? Be the person who does good instead of just does what feels good. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found a fuck ton of value. Hit the sub button, smash like. I'll see you in the next one. Stay grinding, my G.